Oh,
are we live now? Sorry, guys.
now we're live.
There we go.
Let's see.
Yep, it says we are. 8 seconds in, we're live. Oh, and there's Nikki behind. She's like, oh man, I'm hungry.
Oh, sorry.
All right, guys, we're here. So, hey guys, it's Rachel and Sarah with Be Healed Dog Training, and we are doing our weekly YouTube Live. I almost said Facebook Live. It's like a big party foul. Doing our weekly YouTube Live, just talking about dog training stuff. So tonight we're going to be chatting about clear communication. You know what we don't have up is the chat. Oh, you can see the chat.
I can see the chat.
Perfect. So we're going to be talking about clear communication with your dogs, and feel free to ask questions as we go along. As always, this is going to be a pretty laid-back format, and really there's just a lot of different topics under this main topic that we can talk about.
I think so.
So pretty much what kind of sparked the idea for this is actually we were doing puppy class a little bit ago. We do puppy classes on Tuesday evenings, and so we got to talking about communicating ideas clearly to the puppies that were in the class, and just in general where people tend to struggle with that. So we're just going to touch on a couple different areas today that people tend to have a hard time with, or things that we tend to see a lot of.
Yeah. Or that we're guilty of. We've had to work on. I don't even know who that was.
That's Portia. What's she looking at?
No, it's a cat. Oh wait. Sorry.
Anyway, so we've got 4 dogs hanging out in the room with us. So we are clearly communicating with Portia right now that whining does not need to take place.
Clearly communicating
while we are doing our live. So, all right. So let's just start with. What do you want to start with?
Well, so my pet peeve is the wrong word, but probably the thing that I think I struggle with personally the most. Okay, I think.
No.
Is the desire to repeat a command.
Yeah.
That when you don't, so you said sit and you have not gotten a sit, and it's like if I just say sit 3 more times, because that works with people or dogs. Or, oh wait, does it work at all?
Keep saying it louder.
Right.
That's the trick. Say it louder. I mean, we see this all the time. I've done it. Like, we've all done it.
Yeah.
But so I don't want my dog to go into a down, because I go down, 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 down. Oh, look, they down. Oh, and they're back up. Right. Like, you've seen it. Everybody's seen it. We've done it. So, what I stress with when we, first of all, when we're asking our dog down, we have to say it 20 times, and this goes for any command, obviously. Question number 1 is, does your dog actually know that command? I see so many people telling their dogs to do things that you can tell the dog genuinely has never understood that command.
So what's a benchmark? What does that look like? So how do you know? Like, okay, not that it just got it a few times. Like, what do you think's a good benchmark? Okay, I know my dog knows what that means.
Well, have you gotten the dog to repeatedly do that when you ask?
Okay.
And so man.
But more than one day. Like, so if you do it one day and you work on sit, and that's great, it's got sit, and you go to do it the next day.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to expect when you go from one training session to another training session in the next day, you expect to not necessarily pick up exactly where you left off, although you might.
Yeah.
But you expect to have to maybe just re-clarify, run a couple of repetitions, run a couple of drills, make sure that the dog really does understand what it is that you're asking, and if they seem confused, then you work through that. So, as much as I keep wanting to go down certain trails, I keep telling myself, no, we gotta back up. No, we gotta back up. So we're gonna start with putting a leash on your dog. Because if your dog doesn't understand the words coming out of your mouth, they're not gonna magically do it. We have to get the dog to physically do a command before we can expect them to do it off of a verbal cue. So we'll just keep going with down as our example throughout all of these. So I want my dog to go into a down, and my dog does not know the command down, or I can't get them to do it when I ask them. So I want to start by putting a leash on that dog to make sure that I can get them in a down. And I use food lures to teach the down, and that just means I'm taking food, I'm guiding the dog downward with the food. You know, they want to follow the food. But I also really like to teach down in all of my commands with leash pressure. So I'm going to put a prong collar on. I'm going to make sure that the prong collar is properly fitted. And then and actually with the down in particular, I like to turn my prong collar so that the leash is coming out on the underside. Normally the leash should be back here when you're taking the dog on a walk or doing leash stuff. But when I'm teaching down, I'll put the leash, I'll turn the collar so the leash coming out here, and then I'll use pressure and release to guide the dog into a down. I'm using markers, I'm using clickers. Gosh, this all intertwines so much. Markers is a part of clear communication, so remind me to come back to that. Here, let's just start making lists. Always keep pad of paper close by. But start with a leash on your dog, because if your dog can just be roaming through the house and, able to just kind of go over here and go over there, it's going to make it a lot harder if you can't physically guide that dog. Now, I see how that works.
Yeah.
So leash on the dog is number one. Number two, remember that verbal cues don't mean anything to the dog unless you have paired up that verbal cue with an action. And so, when I'm teaching, I don't say the word down the first several times that we do repetitions. I will guide the dog down with the food lure. I'll use my leash pressure, and then I'm going to mark that behavior. I guess it's time to talk about markers.
I think we have to talk about markers.
I'm going to mark that behavior before I do it.
There's a few ways we can mark. Right?
Yeah. I'm going to glance at what the question is.
So Avery says they're on crutches and can't do the training they usually do, and the family doesn't usually follow through.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough situation. So we're going to come back to that in just a minute. Your comment, your question is there. We are going to come back to it. But just so I can keep myself on track here, markers are another really important part of clear communication. And what that means is that we mark behaviors with either a marker word, or we love using clicker training. And so you can use a clicker. And basically, you start by teaching the dog what the clicker or that marker word means. So every time you click, you give that dog a piece of food. Or every time you say the word yes, that means they're going to get paid. Every single time. Every time you do it, the dog gets a reward.
Even if you screw up.
Yeah.
Even if you accidentally click, or you're standing and talking to your spouse and you go, yes! And the dog's like, what? Yeah. But I mean, I've had to do it before when I had them right there. Right. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't have to, but I felt bad.
Right.
So bad.
She's like, oh, that food? Okay.
I know, you were like, oh.
Well, I guess if she was doing the right thing at the time, though.
Yeah, she was. She was. Yeah, it was right.
But anyway,
there's a lot of spelling that happens at our house.
Right? Like
you can tell the dog B-R-E-A-K.
Right? Yeah. I've gotten to where Charlotte, my 3-year-old, knows when I say release them, that means say break.
Oh, because you say it.
Yeah, I had to teach her the phrase release the dogs, because if I say Charlotte, tell them break, they're all going to break before she can do it anyway.
What's cool is, I don't know if you guys are noticing, and I'm going to rabbit trail for 1 second.
Yeah.
We've just said that 2-3 times.
Yeah, all the dogs are sleeping.
They're, right.
They know context.
They know context, but that's part of setting up clear communication. Yeah. That's what you're working towards.
Right, teaching context.
But markers.
Let's get back on markers. So, markers. The idea of markers being that you mark behaviors, and when you mark that behavior, it means they're going to get paid. Hold on just a second. Let me silence my phone here. I didn't realize it would make noise while I was doing the live. There we go. Sorry, guys. So again, we use clicker training, so I'm going to talk about clickers, but again, like the same thing applies if you use the word yes or a certain marker word. So I'm teaching the dog down. They don't know that command yet. I don't say the word down at all. Not yet. Not when I'm first starting. I guide the dog into a down using food, using leash pressure. The moment they complete the down command, I click and I pay. And so the dog understands that the word click means what I'm doing right now is right. What I'm doing right now is going to get me food and going to get me a reward. And so marking behaviors is really important because it allows us to give the dog immediate feedback, because you can't always immediately like shove food down their throat.
Yeah, you're not fast enough.
And especially when you're doing more distance work, like you want to be able to tell the dog from a distance that what they're doing is correct, and you can't or food across the room.
Incorrect. I mean, because no works the same way as a marker word.
Absolutely. We mark no as well, and we do that before we're providing a consequence for behavior. So we mark either way. It's always neutral. Our marker words are always neutral, which just means that, and that's why I like a clicker so much, is it never varies. It's the same, like, when I mark with the word yes, I want to just yes and give food, not yes, because then I'm going to mess my dog up.
And it's hard. You
Yeah.
get excited.
Oh, yeah.
On a trick or something that's not even necessary.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're just like, yeah.
My dog did something adorable.
Right, look.
Portia popped a wheelie.
Right, she popped a wheelie. And then you're like, and then she's like, oh.
How did that go?
Yeah, I'm not doing that again.
Portia, we love your wheelies. She's like, what?
She's like, what? Is there food?
We've got 4 dogs all scattered around the room right now. But anyway, so marking the exact moment in time that you want a dog to know that they need more of. And sometimes that even means breaking a command down. So I've had certain dogs that really struggle with the down command. And like leash pressure, they're fighting it. And so I'm not going to sit here and take a dog that's standing or in a sit and I'm putting leash pressure on and take that dog all the way to the floor if they're fighting that hard before I click. So when I have a dog that's really what's the word? Gosh, resisting the pressure, then I might click just for them going from here to here, and then clicking food, and they go, oh, every time I yield to that pressure, it's actually a good thing to do this. Good things happen when I yield to the pressure until eventually I get the dog into a down. So sometimes you need to just take a step back and break things up into bite-sized pieces. So that's another reason why we use markers. It's instant information to the dog that what they're doing is correct or not okay. So let's go back and wait. What were you gonna say?
I was going to talk about charging a marker.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do that real quick then. So, if your dog does not know the clicker or does not know your marker word, then you do have to charge it the first time you teach it. And what that means is just you're standing there and you're going click food, click food, click food. You're not giving them directions. You're not giving them a command. It's just click food, click food. Oh yeah, it is the cat. It's the whining at the cat. Or it's yes food, yes food, yes food. And that way they start to like, that word gets charged or the clicker gets charged. And basically you'll know that the clicker is officially charged when like the dog kind of does this number and you click and they go, huh? Like, that's what you want. You want them going, hey, when I hear that sound, like, I like that sound. I know something good is coming. I know that I'm doing the right thing. Shenzi, are you going to come hang out with us? So we've got 4 cats and 3 dogs in here. Wait, I said that backwards. 4 dogs and 3 cats in here. So who knows what'll go walking by. But
providing the light fixtures fall, we're okay.
Yeah, so if you guys weren't watching the live
last week.
What, around minute like 43 and change?
40 something.
Yeah, my light fixture fell on us, hit me in the head, hit her in the shin. I sliced my finger on it, picking it up at the end.
It was exciting.
Yeah, so I still don't have the dome covering, and I just looked right at the lights, and now I'm seeing the little green spots. But anyway, so let's, I want to, can I pick up your phone? Yeah. I'm going to read this question here.
Yeah, I guess we don't just have to. There's more pieces.
I was getting up under there. I was like, what is it? Oh. Okay, so we've got a question that came in. It says, so I've been on crutches for a week, and I will be on them for another week, so I can't do all the training with my dog that I always do. And my family doesn't usually follow through. I don't know if that was meant to be like a question, like what can I do, or if you're just venting some frustration, because honestly, that's a tough situation. I don't have a good answer for what to do, except like, have a heart-to-heart with your family about how important it is.
Well, my question though would be, are we talking about active training, or are we talking about just keeping up the standard of what you've already done?
Yeah.
Because those are kind of 2 different things, because if your dog has some good commands down that you guys can kind of work with, then I think it's okay if you have a week where you can't actively train. That's not a problem.
Yeah, really the best you can do is the best you can do. I'm not explaining that well. I've been in the same situation where I have relied on
your foot or something.
Oh, well, yeah, I broke my foot and was training dogs on crutches, so it is doable. But I say that the client dogs I had at the time, we had gotten through some initial like leash stuff, and I was very grateful I didn't have a brand new dog coming in jumping all over me that I would have to address. And also, like, I'm able to address behaviors very quickly. This is what I do all day, every day. So I've got the skill set that allows me to like get on top of behaviors very quickly. But you'd be surprised what you can accomplish on crutches, especially with some training tools. I don't know if you're already using like prong and remote collars, but prong and remote collar training is amazing. And if you're already using that, that'll help you. If you're not, this would be actually a prong collar, this still could be a good time to introduce one. It could still help you.
Well, that's right. And even just get them used to having one on and working with it to see what's going on.
But as far as if you're having trouble with like getting family to keep up with your structure, like I've been in that position.
Well, I think this actually really does fall into clear communication too, though. Right?
Well, okay, yes. So you're going to have a segue into a very good point here. Let me see, actually. They won't use prong collar. So the best advice I have to you, like, I don't have good advice for you. I'm sorry about that. Calm down. I know. Shenzi's like,
there you go, yay.
I have been in similar situations where, like, you know, if my parents are watching, I would throw you under the bus. Sometimes they don't follow my own structure as much as I would like, but I can't expect really anybody to. The best thing I can tell you is to just do your best to try and explain how important it is that your dog keep up with, you know, what they need to. But at the same time, if you have family that's helping you take care of your dog while you're not able to, and they, like, for example, they don't want to use a prong collar, but they're taking your dog out on leash, as long as your dog is safe, let them struggle. Obviously, you don't want your family to struggle with your dog, but if they're not going to use the tools, then they're going to be, you know, the one struggling.
One of the things, like, if you know this is a fixed amount of time, you're not going to be on crutches for the next 2 years. You got a couple of weeks here. They don't work with a prong collar. If you can keep the dog safe while it's outside, you know, if it's whatever issues you're having.
Yeah, you may just have to grit your teeth and get through it. I know it sucks. Because.
But they're also not likely going to do something you can't undo with your training.
Exactly. I've left my dogs with family members before, and when I pick them up, you know, it's been a 3-day weekend or something, and I pick them up, and I'm like, yeah, we got to buckle down some stuff, and after the first day or two back, like, we're back. Obviously, if you're talking a couple weeks, it's a little longer. So, you know, unless you're able to, I don't know if you're able to hire someone to help come in and either walk or train your dogs for you, that would be another option to consider. And just do what you can. But remember, like Sarah already said, you know, you may have dogs not on their absolute best behavior, especially when you're back to you taking care of them, but you will be able to get back on top of things. So, I'm sorry you're stuck on crutches. I know that kind of blows.
Well, so I'm making this note so I don't forget it because I thought of it twice. But so the segue into clear communication.
Oh, yeah. So, back to our topic, or keeping this in line with the topic that we're talking about tonight, we're talking about clear communication with dogs, and I'm sorry my dog is like licking his nuts right in front of you guys. Shenzi, quit. And my cat Shenzi is hungry, and she's hoping other dogs might feed her, so she's going around like bumping on all of them.
They can't see though. Shenzi and Conk are kind of cute.
Yeah. Anyway, so when you are training your dog and you're trying to teach it new things, and not even teach it new things, but maintain what the dog knows, it is so important that everybody in the family be on the same page.
Specifically in the household. It doesn't have to be a family member, but everybody who's living in the house. Roommate, whoever.
And we make that even more so. Anyone who's going to have hands on the dog.
Well, that's right.
Because if someone, for whatever reason, is not going to be on board, whether they're not invested, or they're too young, or they just, you know, like, not interested, if someone is not going to be on the same page with the training and following through the same protocols and using the same training tools, then they don't get to handle the dog.
Yeah.
And I'll let you kind of talk about your experience with that. So Sarah, not too long ago, a couple months ago, their family brought home a new puppy.
Right.
And they started from the get-go making sure that things were in place.
Right, so, and we have kids. There's 3 kids in the household, and so 2 teenagers and a 10-year-old. And so when we actually brought, and this is, I guess, another little segue, I mean, as much as you can do this, before you bring, they're so cute.
I know, I'm just moving so you guys can, while we yak and watch the cat and the dog playing.
But as much as you can, before you even bring the dog home, sit down and have a conversation. And we did this because the puppy was a surprise. So we did this the day puppy came home. And we said, we're starting off number one, calm energy. Calm begets calm. If you bring crazy energy to the dog, you're gonna get crazy energy back from the dog. So that's one thing that we stipulated for all the kids. And then we said, here are our rules. When we're working on a place, you don't touch the dog on a place. That's their place. When you da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and we cover that, and Rachel covers that, and all this rules in a bunch of videos, although we could do a video on just family rules, but communicating that. And then we said, okay, look, once we got started with the e-collar, not just anyone in the house is allowed to pick up that e-collar and work with it. Now, both of, or two of the kids have actually sort of been trained on the e-collar now, but we're like, okay, here's how and they only use it under supervision.
Yeah, and e-collar is not rocket science. E-collars are not hard, but you do need to know how they work, why we use them at what times, blah, blah, blah. So actually, when I started e-collar training my dogs, and when I was brand new to it, I gave my husband the rule that he was not allowed to use that remote until he sat down with me and I taught him how to use it, because I had done all the research on how to use it, when to use it.
Well, and I think that's one important thing is, so in our house, I'm kind of the point person, and I'll even go to the other adults in the household and be like, okay, look, I see that you just did this thing this way. Let me give you a different way to try this, and so that it's all consistent, so that what I'm doing with the dog is what you're doing with the dog and whatever. But to that effect, until the kids had it down, they couldn't just go get the dog out of the crate, not with an adult, even a teenager. Like, okay, you have an adult with you, let's make sure, I want to make sure that you're doing what I'm doing. Yeah. So,
but just reinforcing all of the different little pieces of structure that are in place. Like, it's all words. So, I've worked with a lot of people who it'll be a couple and one person says place and the other says go to your bed. And that's not to say the dog can't learn it, but if you want your dog to learn things efficiently and quickly, you're going to make it easier on them if you have that uniformity in place. So
well, and another piece of that, and we just talked about repeating the words, but another piece of that is, and we struggle with this a lot. I love my children. If you're watching, I love you. But multiple people giving commands at the same time. Like, somebody has to be in charge of the dog right now.
Right.
And so if I'm getting the dog to do something, and that means sometimes, and it's hard, sometimes I have to stop and go, I'm not actually the person that was working with the dog, even though I'm kind of the point person in the house.
Yeah.
I didn't initiate that. And so I've got to step back, and I'm bad for it. Sometimes but I try not to step in unless I just see it's not going.
It's necessary.
Right. But I do sometimes. I'm guilty. But yes, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a really big one. I see that a lot, whether it's a couple or a family, the dog does something and suddenly it's everyone's dog piling on it. Like, no, hey, here, come, no, and it's like, that is verbal vomit to the dog, you're bombarding it, like, how is the dog
even if everybody's saying sit, it doesn't matter, it's too much.
Right, absolutely. You get two people going down. It's like, no, that's confusing. So you want to make sure that Shinzi says hi. You want to make sure that one person is communicating at a time, and like Sarah already said, whoever initiates the encounter, or sorry, my chair's squeaking like crazy. Whoever starts it needs to be the one that continues communicating.
Well, if that's a kid, if you're trying to teach your children to work with the animals, you need to try to let them guide them. Let them see it through. Like, don't just go, oh, you didn't get that right, let me jump in and because that's the only way they're gonna learn.
Absolutely.
And it's hard.
They're not gonna mess up the dog.
They're not. No, but it's hard for you. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it just do the
Yeah. Us control freaks gotta learn.
It's a little difficult.
You get down. Hold please.
Well, so what I'm gonna mention, since I wrote it down while you're moving.
My dogs are trained, not my cats. My cats are not trained.
Is on top of not bombarding them with words, our commands need to be like simple words, very simple.
And not only simple commands, but that we're not speaking in sentences.
Right.
Yeah. So I see a lot of like, okay, Belle, now we're going to do place. So place, I said place. If you do place, I'm going to give you a treat.
Right.
Like, no, not over
hey,
there.
let's go get in the crate now. Like they don't know which one of those words they were supposed to react to.
Now, don't get me wrong, I talk to my dogs plenty. We all do.
That's right. No,
we all do. But we're talking when you're teaching something that is either new or even just your basic obedience commands need to always just be simple, one word. The dog can definitely understand it. And with your training, just keep things very simple and don't speak sentences at them. It's kind of like if you've ever learned a new language.
Oh, right.
So, like, there is an immersion aspect of, like, French class.
Sure.
I remember I took French class in middle school, and in 8th grade, the entire class was taught in French. Like, the teacher...
Oh, we walked in the door the first day.
Yep.
They were like...
We hated it at first, but,
But... report.
Right? But we didn't start there. We started in the 7th grade with vocabulary.
Right.
And so you have to remember that when you're teaching your dog new information, you are literally teaching them vocabulary, and you're teaching them, as far as verbal cues, you're teaching words, and you want to keep it simple. So, we would have vocabulary lists, and we would get very, the level of French being spoken was minimal. It was just learning those vocabulary words until we had a good grasp on it. And then we'd start completing our sentences and all
Well,
that.
and you were even saying tonight in puppy class that I think, like, when you first are introducing a command and you're starting with no words at all, like, we just want you to see what this feels like, see what I'm trying to get you to do. Yes, I like that action, because that's, in the end, what we're trying to do is get a physical action out of the dog. But that, like, you're going to use 3 words. It's going to be whatever the command is, yes or no.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And that's even if you're not just using the clicker for yes.
Yeah.
Like, it might be 2.
Pretty much. You don't even need words to train a dog. Think about deaf dogs. Like, you can train deaf dogs. You train them with hand signals.
Right.
You want to be able to cue them. But that's where you got to remember that your verbal cue is just that. It is a cue that doesn't have meaning until you give it meaning. So if your dog doesn't understand it or doesn't do it reliably, you got to go back and make sure, does this word have meaning to this dog?
Right.
Yeah, I said that right. So... Coffee. Can we stop? People are watching. See what happens when you talk to your dog in sentences? Now watch. Now we make it simple. Down. I should have just said no.
That's another good one, no. And multiple dogs is a good... So it's really good to teach your dog, especially if you're going to take it out anywhere or have other animals or be around other animals.
Especially if you have other dogs.
That it's going to be their name and command.
Yeah.
Because that way, because all the other dogs in here knew that was for Crump.
Yeah. Plus they're all already down. Probably like, you can't down anymore.
Whatever. Belle's over here flapping the tail.
Let's see. So
Timothy says enjoying the advice.
Oh,
thanks, Timothy.
Thanks for joining us again.
Yes.
What else? We've made notes. So we talked about single words. So you already mentioned calm energy, and I want to go into that even more because
your energy is communication.
Yes. So the frame of mind that the dog is in, the energy that you're putting out there is going to shape what frame of mind the dog is in. That is the crappiest place that I've seen, but I'm going to let it slide.
The problem is Kronk doesn't fit on any place.
On the room, getting into stuff. So if he wants to be on the nice, cool,
hard elbow place,
that's fine. Anyway, so calm energy. So we have to remember that if our dogs are jacked up, it's going to be hard for them to absorb the content that you're trying to get them to absorb.
Right, just like you, me.
So, and kids. So there's a difference between excitement, like overexcitement, and eagerness. I love eagerness when I train. I want eagerness, but it's very easy to cross over into overexcitement. And so I get a lot of dogs in for board and trains that they're coming in, their main problem is, oh, my dog's way overexcited, and they jump on me, and these guys come in happy-go-lucky, wah! The first thing I have to do with it is because try and take a dog that's wanting to jump on you and teach it to sit.
Or chew on you.
Let's keep up with our the role that we're on for bashing the whole positive only training thing. We are now 5-0 anyway. The reason I want to point this out is the positive only training world that believes there should not be any form of punishment or correction ever would say to teach a dog not to jump on you, tell the dog to sit. Have you ever tried that? If it works, which some dogs it just doesn't ever work. For the dogs that maybe it works, I mean, I've heard people say, yeah, it's starting to work. We're working on jumping. First of all, I don't believe in like working on jumping. You stop
or
it.
biting or
You just stop it like immediately, and it shouldn't happen again. You know.
Right.
So I've heard people say like, oh yeah, we've been working on it. It's been a couple months, and now the dog will sit. You know, after it jumps on me only once or twice.
Well, that's obviously not clearly communicated.
I was just about to say that.
I'm sorry.
No, like that's exactly it. You know, obviously you've not clearly communicated with your dog. Jumping is not okay. And actually, consequence was going to be a part of what I talked about clear communication. So that'll be our next segue. This is like a night of segues. But
not the things that you ride on the two-wheel.
Yeah. But God, can you imagine us on those?
No.
Ooh, it'd be bad.
No.
We needed a helmet just sitting in the last week. We had a light fall on.
You guys don't know it, but you're actually looking at two people who legitimately like trip over their own feet on a routine basis.
Oh yeah.
So.
But anyways, going back to like the positive only training, says that to get a dog to stop jumping on you, teach it to sit. And the reason that I was just talking about it taking so long for that to even possibly work is when you have a dog that's overly adrenalized, trying to get it to focus enough to sit, especially if it doesn't really know that command, good luck. Like, you know, what is Kronk doing over there?
Sorry.
Kronk's like, I'm playing with my feet. But late. But yeah, so we have to get the dogs in a calm frame of mind that is open to learning. And that is just so important, even if it means that we start off. Kronk, no. What a goof. Even if we start off needing to correct the dog right off the bat, they get over it, they're resilient, it's not a big deal, and it's actually, that'll be our transition point right there, that is actually beneficial. When we provide consequence and corrections for unwanted behaviors, that helps to clearly communicate to the dog what's not okay.
Right.
And a lot of dogs are just left high and dry when they're not provided with consequences. Like, I don't understand this. Like, I never want to, you know, correct my dog. Nobody wants to correct it, but I enjoy the benefit of correcting my dog. When you watch
a dog, it frustrates me to watch a dog that's obviously confused, and you can tell. I mean, they're looking at you like, okay, I'm trying. I'm not sure what you want, but I'm trying. Or sometimes they're just freaked out, or any number of other things. But it's so, because you know, I mean, they want to please you. Mm-hmm. They truly do.
Yeah, and even when you have these overly excited guys jumping all over you, and you're kind of like trying not to correct them, but you're frustrated, like the dog can pick up on that. And hell, they may continue jumping more, like, feel better.
Right. Well, and it's like, we talk about, and we were talking about tonight, you know, you're trying to get the dog out of the crate, right? Like, it's morning, let's get out of the crate, whatever. And you're excited to see your dog, and you come in, like, you actually set it up to fail sometimes, and you don't really even mean to.
Yeah.
But you're like, you know, you want this calm energy, but what you bring to the table, you're like, hey, I'm going to act this way, but you need to act this way.
Yeah, when we walk in, good morning, good to see you. Hey, how did you sleep? And it's like, oh, but stop jumping all over the place and running through the house.
But that doesn't mean you can't walk. I mean, I do it routinely. Come in, I'm like, good morning. You know, because you can still be sweet with a calm energy.
Right. Well, and because you have already established what's okay and not okay.
Right.
Like, you have corrected the dog.
Right.
So she knows that, you know, you talking sweetly to her is not a pass to jump all over you and act like a fool. And in place for those unwanted behaviors and setting clear boundaries. Like, when you don't have both positive and negative, when you don't have yes and no, when you don't have reward and punishment, then you are leaving part of the equation out. Like, just because we talk about punishment and correction so much doesn't mean that's all we do. Like, we do tons of rewards.
Well, because rewarding is, and positive reinforcement is clear communication.
Yeah.
I like this. I want this. Exactly. Make your life awesome if you do this thing.
Yep, but how are you gonna tell a dog, I don't like something you're doing with the treat?
Right. I mean, I
It
don't
just
know.
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me
Doesn't make
either.
sense.
But
And it doesn't make sense to dogs.
well, and deflection doesn't teach, and we talked about this earlier tonight. So you have a puppy that's nipping at you and biting at you, and so if you think the answer is, oh, well, let me just distract it. I'm going to give it a toy, or I'm going to give it something else to chew on. All you've said is, hey, you're doing this thing I don't like, but I'm going to reward you for doing this thing I don't like.
Yeah.
They don't have any way to correlate that I'm actually giving you this because I'm not okay with what you're doing.
Right.
They don't know.
If anything, you've literally just done the opposite of what you want to do. Is you've taught that dog, hey, you bite my arm, you get a toy that you love. Hey, you bite my arm, you get a piece of chicken. You know, because that is a common thing.
Yeah, no, I know.
People tell dog owners, hey, if your dog is, biting on you or resource guarding, give them something better so that you can get the resource from the dog. I'm like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
You are training the dog to resource guard.
Yeah.
Hey, guard your bowl, here's a piece of steak. Like,
Right.
of course that dog's
Right.
going to repeat that behavior. So consequence and punishment, for unwanted behaviors is really important. And I'm going to keep going with this, and then I know we got a question.
We have a question, yeah, and it's going to be an involved answer. Solange is probably going to be more, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, we talk about correcting for unwanted behaviors, like the jumping, barking, aggression, all that stuff, whatever. So that's important to provide a consequence that says, hey, I don't like that. But also, once your dog has learned a command, once they know when you say down, they know what they're supposed to do.
And you know they know.
Yeah. Then having a consequence in place for not doing that known command also clarifies to the dog, like, yes, you're expected to do this down even when there's a guest at the door.
Right.
Even when we're out on a walk and, there's a car going by or someone on a bicycle.
And you're going to transition that from, right, you're going to transition that from treats. It's not, there's going to get to the point where those commands, it's not like, hey, this is expected behavior. It's not like you're going to look at your kid and go, hey, you didn't destroy your room today. Let me give you a candy bar.
Right.
That's not how that works.
Yeah.
Eventually you're going, no, I expect you to actually keep your room clean. I expect you to stay in place. And if
Right.
you don't, then we have to deal with that.
Right, exactly. So even correcting the dog for non-compliance with the command is a part of clear communication in the dog. Saying, like, when I say down, it means down, even with distractions, even from a distance, even if you've been doing it for 5 minutes. If I haven't released you yet, you are still supposed to be in a down. We can't expect our dogs to follow basic commands in high levels of distractions or for long periods of time if we don't tell them that it's expected.
Well, and that actually transitions
All right,
perfect
so let's
into
see.
Solange's question, which, like I said, this might not be a one-shot fix because that's kind of a complicated answer.
All right, so this says my dog gets stressed when people go to the pool, run around that until everybody go out to the pool. I don't know what to do. Can you help?
Right, so
the dog
basically
is
the dog's
getting-
running nuts until everybody's out of the pool.
Gotcha.
Is how I understand that.
Yeah,
Let us
yeah.
know if that's not.
Yeah, so us understanding this is that your dog is stressing when people are in the pool and they run around until the people get out of the pool. So what you would need to do in that situation is stop that behavior, correct that behavior, and for starters, if the dog is loose, then and obviously I'm assuming in this case it either doesn't know commands or, like we were just saying, isn't reliable in the commands in this scenario.
Highly distracted.
Exactly. So this is a highly distracting thing for this dog.
Well, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
If first, would you say until you can deal with this,
Mhm.
until you're going to take the time and go, I'm going to actually work on this issue. The first answer I would have is just not to put the dog in that situation. It's not okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you're not okay for doing it. I'm saying the dog doesn't feel okay. So if you
Right.
can avoid just putting it in that situation, that's ideal.
Yes, until the
Until you
training
can
is
deal with
there.
it, right.
Yep, until the training is there, then, because what you don't want is if you allow the dog to continue doing this, it's just going to keep cycling and getting worse.
It's building that habit up stronger and stronger.
Yes. So initially, until you have the training down, the dog needs to be removed from the situation. So if everyone's going swimming, the dog is in the house in a crate And the reason I say in a crate is because if the dog is in the house and everybody's outside swimming, that dog's probably running through the house doing the same thing.
Yeah, and you may get horrible results.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you would want the dog in a crate and being calm in the crate, and that's a whole other, we can't get too far into specifics on that.
There are some videos though. Go look at the channel.
Videos, and I'm going to do a shameless plug. I offer Skype sessions for them who need more in-depth help with things. So as we answer these questions, I'll answer them the best that I can within the time frame limits that we have. But I do always offer Skypes for anybody who wants further help if we're not close enough to work together in person. But so what I would do is initially the dog is not allowed to be outside when everybody is swimming, and then I would teach the dog the place command and a really solid down command. And again, if you're not familiar with the place command, check out videos. I've got videos on my channels. There's all sorts of trainers out there who have videos in their channels about how to teach place. And place just means you get on an object like a pet bed or a rug or a doormat, and you stay on that object in and down until they're released. So you teach that dog the place command, and you don't start with that during the chaos of, everyone's swimming. You start with that in like a quiet room like this one.
In the house, by just you and the dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Doing all of this clear communication stuff that we've been teaching. So again, that really ties into, we don't want to take a dog and put them in a situation that is so high stress if they don't know that command really well first, because it will not be successful. So you make sure that you've had all that clear communication in place. You make sure that that dog understands when you tell them place, this is what they're supposed to do. And then eventually you could move the dog to being on place while everyone swims. And what that is probably going to look like is the dog not wanting to stay on place. They're going to break place. They're going to try to go back to their old habits, and you would have to correct that dog for breaking place. So you're not correcting the dog for being stressed and running around. You're correcting the dog for breaking place, which they know they're supposed to be doing. So again, we make it really clear. Teach a command that the dog knows and understands. Ask, not ask, but tell the dog they are to do that command in this scenario. Correct the dog for breaking that command. And again, you don't start at the pool side. You work your way up to it.
Well, that's the thing. I think any of this, that being intentional about your training time and about how you're doing this is going to be a huge part of whether or not you're successful with it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, and we talk about this a lot, is being realistic about the dog you have. And we've talked about before, like, you want your dream dog, and we all want our dream dog, and I want mine to go on a kayak with me, and maybe that happens and maybe it doesn't. But I think that's the thing, is it may just be, if it's high stress enough for your dog, that being on place near the pool might be as good as, you may not ever have that dog off place just hanging out while you're in the pool.
Sure.
It might not be okay. And I think the thing of it is if the dog doesn't feel okay, why would you want them to be? You need to do what works the best for everyone, right? I think.
Yeah, you work them up to a certain point. I mean, there's plenty of times that the dog is not okay that we can work them to that they become okay.
Right.
But it takes a lot of time and a lot of repetition and exposure and putting that dog through lots of training and scenarios. So, but yeah, like again, I mean, you pretty much already said it. For a particular dog, you may find that is going to be the best place for that dog is to be on place when everyone's swimming. That once you get to that point of releasing the dog, it's having a very hard time, like being.
Well, it's like you talked about Belle tonight, and being able to tell her to jump or not, because she can come up and she can say hi, but then she gets too excited.
Yeah.
So.
Clarifying that,
Sorry.
we were talking about that earlier, about how every dog is a little bit different, and I have different rules for my different dogs. And one example is Kronk. I love to sometimes invite him up to jump on me because he doesn't ever just
respectful.
Yeah, he's respectful, but he had to be taught to be respectful because he did used to try and jump on me and other people, and so he got corrected for that. And he has a really good understanding of, okay, I am not supposed to just come up and jump on you out of nowhere, but I can ask him on occasion. I'll ask him to jump up, and he will, and it doesn't become a problem. Like, he doesn't do it unless asked. However, and that's because he knows if he does it without being asked, he's going to get corrected. On the flip side, allow her to jump, she's going to start trying to do it on her own all the time, even with high level corrections. So with her, I just don't ask her to jump on me ever. And we get along just fine. Like,
Right.
we don't have problems with jumping.
But maybe that's part of the communication aspect, is sometimes it's a matter of taking the communication back from the dog. It's not just what we're communicating to the dog, but reading the dog, knowing your animal, knowing
exactly
when it's at threshold, when it's okay to push beyond threshold, and when you just need to go, hey, this is good.
This is going to be what's best for us.
We're good.
Yeah, exactly. This is the best for us. You know, could I work Belle to that point? Probably, but do I care enough? Like,
Right. Is it worth it?
I don't have this need to like invite her to jump on me, so I'm good with this. One other thing that I want to mention with the again idea of clear. This is all about clear communication. Is what we're really getting at.
Right.
Making sure that we are getting our ideas across to our dog, because ultimately that is what we're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Is getting our ideas across to a dog in a way that they can understand and interpret that.
Well, it makes for making for effective training.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Your training is just never as effective if you're not
Clear. Yeah. Duh. But so repeating words is a really common one. And we started so to get back on track with that, I don't want my dog to down, because I say down, down, down. And you see that a lot from people when there's like distractions and the dog is overly excited and they're trying to get the dog to down and they're saying it over and over and the dog's like, ah. So we already talked about getting the dog in a calm frame of mind and all of that. But as far as repeating words, and especially, I see this a lot, even when things are calm, even when we get the dog into a good frame of mind, they're calm, they're absorbing information, they're ready to learn. I'll see people tell the dog down and then immediately tell him down again and immediately tell him again. And, you know, maybe try and point, but the whole time they're going down, 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 Belle, down, down, Belle. And so you want to slow down, quit bombarding the dog with the command. The general kind of rule that I follow is I say the command, and then I provide leash guidance. So it's down, the dog doesn't down, I provide leash guidance. And of course, this is considering that we have already taught the basics of down command, that the dog is already learning it. So once the dog already has kind of a general understanding of it, I'll say the command, I'll give the dog a moment to do it if they don't do it, learning a command. Once the dog knows the command, as we've already talked about earlier, we get to a point that we can provide a correction for not doing that command. And that can be a leash pop, that can be a remote collar correction. With me, generally, that's a remote collar correction. So I tell the dog down, they don't down, I'm going to give a calm, neutral no, a correction on my remote, and then guide the dog with the leash into a down. So I've only ever said the word once. Now, sometimes I may repeat a command if I feel that truly the dog maybe didn't hear me the first time. I may still correct first too, because sometimes the dog might not hear me because they're tuning me out.
Right.
So you can still correct. You can still tell the dog down, and the dog's like in lolling, and you go no tap, and the dog goes huh, and you go down. It's fine to repeat a command if you need to clarify, if you think the dog was too distracted to actually hear what you said. But you don't want to be just repeating that command. You want to have something in between the commands that is actually getting that dog's attention or telling what it needs to do. So again, it would be down, no, and tap on my remote, or no and a pop on my leash, and then guide them or repeat my command.
But you said such an important thing in the middle of this, and that was slow down. And
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, because when you're down, you're in like a hyper focus.
Yes.
I'm trying to train this dog, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to do something with it. And so when it doesn't immediately respond, like, give it a second.
Yeah, and your dog will pick up on
It's
that energy.
okay.
Like,
Yeah.
it'll stress him out.
Yep.
It'll either stress him out or confuse him. Like, what do you want from me?
What's going on? Right. Because
Yeah.
Right. So slow down. Take a breath. You're training.
Don't be offended when your dog doesn't do it or makes mistakes.
Right.
Like, they're dogs. They're not going to get it right all the time. Like, and, you know, it's really important not to get in a rush. Down. Okay, you're not going to down. No, incorrect. Okay, now you're not sure what to do. I'm going to guide you into a down. Or if the dog really knows and is just choosing to because when you first start correcting for non-compliance, the first couple of times you provide that correction, the dog may get confused, even if they knew how to do the command before. They should know how to do a command before if you're correcting. So you actually correct and guide. And that way you teach the dog what to do with a correction. You literally teach the dog how to be corrected.
Right.
And so that's important too, that we don't just start correcting. Like, it is a methodical process, and we want all of this to be methodical. I kind of lost my train of thought of where I was going with
We
that.
were talking about
Tired.
slowing
It's
down.
late.
We were talking about it is getting late.
Slowing down. I mean, really. So, slowing down and letting your dog make mistakes and letting your dog take too long. Like, there is no too long. It's a training session.
Well, and that sometimes you actually need to kind of help them make a mistake so that you can show them, especially with the puppies or any of them. We're working on sit. Well, they figure out really quickly. If I plop my butt down on the floor, somebody's going to give me some food.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, wait a minute. Like, then they start just doing it. I'm going to sit every time. Or my favorite is when they throw you everything.
Yeah.
Sit, paw, down. Like, what do I have to do to get some food?
Yeah, the overly eager beaver that, like, you give them a command and they do all 50 of them. Like,
right, just blah, 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 blah. Right, so
yeah.
let them mess it up. Let them do all the commands so that you go down.
Yeah.
But that tone also, and I think we've already kind of mentioned that, but I think that's can't be overstated enough, that the neutral tone is so important, and that it's so funny because it gets to where it just sticks. Like, you just start to use that tone with everything. You'll use it with your kids or a horse or when you'll be like, no. And people are looking at you like, huh? And you're like, oh, no. No, I mean that no. Because you're like, no. And they're like, I don't understand.
I think we need to be able to communicate like that with everyone.
I think we should be able to communicate.
I thought something new came through, but I'm not seeing one there. So
no, I think it was another message. No, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. So if we recap, simple commands.
Yeah, don't speak in full sentences to your dogs. Just don't do it. Unless
you're just having a chat. That's okay. That's different.
Oh, I see. The chats pop up every time I get a text.
Oh, that's it.
Sorry, I'm trying to. It keeps looking like I'm getting more comments, new comments,
more questions.
I realize that every time I get a different notification on my phone, like a text comes through, it brings the comments back up on YouTube. Sorry.
But so we were recapping. So we said keep it simple. Don't talk. Don't give commands in full sentences.
Yeah. Slow down.
Keep your energy neutral and calm and cool. That's how you're going to get a neutral and calm and cool dog. You can't ask them to do something that you're not willing to do yourself.
Right. Use your markers.
Use your marker words.
If you're joining us later, watch the replay when it gets posted. Markers are important. Remember to keep your environment calm when you're teaching something new.
Yes.
I don't think we actually said that yet. We
sort of did it,
but keep your environment calm when you're learning something new, so that the dog can, again, absorb that new information before you have any expectation for working that dog out in a more distracting environment with that.
Right. Well, I think, the more intentional you can be about that time, then, if you take the intentional time to go, okay, this is what we're going to learn down. And okay, now I feel like you know what down is. Well, now you have all the other opportunities day in, day out. You don't only have to train in intentional training time, but you can't start with, oh, we're wandering through the kitchen and there's 42 things going on. But, oh, hey, now's a great time. Now it's not a great time.
Right. Use a leash. Recapping.
Oh, yes.
Use a leash. I mean, my favorite that I get is when I'll be talking to clients that are telling me they're really frustrated. My dog doesn't come when I call. Well, have you taught it recall? Yeah, I call it all the time. He doesn't come when I call. That's not teaching your dog recall, because your dog does not know when you say come or here, or you call the dog's name. They don't know to come to you, or maybe they kind of have picked up on it, but they don't know that they need to actually do it because you haven't put a leash on the dog. You haven't made that dog come when you give that command. So recall, I think that's the biggest one, is to me, that's one of the most important ones to have a leash on your dog.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most common ones that don't have to learn practice distance recall with a long leg, but like put a leash on your dog to teach them everything, all their basic obedience. Put a leash on your dog in the house, put a leash on your dog, put a leash on your dog.
Well, that made me think of, I want to add, this is not a recap, this is new information, but so do what works. Whatever your dog reads as communication, people ask all the time, well, am I going to have to use an e-collar forever? Am I going to have to use a prong collar forever? Well, yeah, you might. If it's working and it's not hurting the dog, doesn't matter. Yeah. If it's working for you and you're not injuring the animal, you know what? Some dogs will, without any thing on them, walk at a heel, off leash, no problem. And some dogs just need a little reminder every now and again. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Well, and like, so I train every single dog who comes to a board and train. They are trained on prong and a remote collar, period, across the board. Every single dog trained on a prong and a remote collar. But do dogs exist out there who have excellent manners, who have never worn a prong or remote collar? Of course. They're not the ones calling me.
Right.
Right. So those dogs exist, and you may have one of those, and that's awesome. You know, if you've got different training tools that are working for you, but use what works for you.
Do what works for you.
It's a good point. I think it's time for bed.
I think it's time for bed. The cats think it's time for bed.
No, they think it's time for food.
Oh.
Do you know my cats?
No. Not these. They're always hiding here.
Right. I guess they're getting used to us doing our lives in here, and they're like, well, I guess
we're just going to come out and say hello.
So
you guys are getting to meet cats that I don't get to meet.
Yeah, this long-haired one, right there, that's Amos.
Oh,
not you. What was that about? He almost acted like a fly landed on him or something. This short-haired one is Nikki. And then Shenzi was the little black stumpy tail one that was crawling all over the place. So who's saying hi? My mom's saying hi. Mom's like, I want to go home.
That's right.
My mom's helping watch my kids, so.
Thank you guys for showing up again.
Yeah, thank you guys who were here live, and we will be here next Tuesday evening.
Yes.
Same time, 8-ish.
Ish.
Yes, you can leave.
Bye.
I told you could leave once the kids were in bed. Come on.
Bye, Judy. All right,
nice
see you guys.
All right, I'm going to run out and try and actually say bye to my parents.